shortly after 6 p.m. on November 10th, 2022, and this is a meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. And tonight we'll be dealing with police communications, which also includes animal control and capital outlay. Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything for us?
I'd just like to say that tonight we have Selectman Brad Harriman filling in. The other selectmen were committed, and Brad graciously opted to come in and spend the evening with us.
Thank you, Brad. How about you, Casey? You got anything for us?
Not this evening, thanks for asking.
Okay, Captain, why don't you tell us a little bit about the department, how you've been making out for 2022?
So far it's been going really well. We're sitting pretty good with the budget, as you can see. The line items are really good. Overtime's a little high, but hourly wage is down because we're down 2 officers. So it all evens up.
Okay. Thank you. We're all set to get started? Okay, let's start on the 100 series.
Page 22, just in case anybody hasn't found it.
Mr. Town Manager, I see there's a line here, I can't find it, but they had the built-in money for the retirements. I think there was $14,000 when I was looking through this. Is that's not, they don't have access to the one that we set up a couple years ago for the town? You mean when somebody retires to buy out, to be bought out for stuff?
The accrued leave bank, so the accrued leave bank, the way we are handling that is if a department has somebody who retires, they would come to us in December if they're in dire straits for their budget. We'd evaluate their budget, and if we have to, we would exercise some of the funds from that bank to make the department fluid for the remainder of the year.
I apologize, Chief, I didn't see you there when I was introducing everyone. Can you guys explain why that's in there? I think it's $14,000 and some change. I think it was for buyout, mentioned something about buyout.
What are you talking about?
I thought I saw something in here when I was looking at it today that mentioned like $14,000 for buyout, you know, if someone retires.
Oh, so that's comp time.
That's comp time? Okay,
So that's on the contracts.
okay, and that wouldn't,
End of the year compensation buyout.
okay, so that has nothing to do with if someone retires or anything like that. Okay, I just want to make sure you guys have get money for that, okay. Okay, any other questions on the 100 series?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Can someone explain the history of 117, the part-time wages?
Yep.
See, town manager had dropped it considerably, and then it was bumped up again by the Board of Selectmen. Just
That was actually the police commission's decision. So what happened is we had got the budget done. The police commission came forward with an adjustment to it. The budget was done. So we said, look, that can be made going forward at the Board of Selectmen level. And they came in with that adjustment to the Board of Selectmen's level to bring that back up. And Commissioner Wood can explain to you what transpired there.
Sure. So basically, when the original budget was formulated, there was $45,000 in change associated with a juvenile services officer position. We originally decided to remove that funding, but then we've been working with the school board on an additional SRO. And originally we had...
You're gonna have to speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Originally, we had $45,000 as part of this part-time wages. $45,000 and change was earmarked for the juvenile services officer. We didn't feel that we were getting the return for the dollar, so we decided to remove that funding, the commission did, from the budget. But in very short order, with an ongoing discussion with the school district and SROs, we wanted to move forward with a couple of full-time, one to put at the middle school, one to put between the 2 elementary schools. Talking with the superintendent, she said, you'll never get the second one passed because those are specific to Wolfeboro. So we decided to make that a part-time position for the 2 elementary schools and repurpose that JSO to a part-time SRO. in the process, we reduced that line by $10,000. So he was earmarked for $45,000 expense for the coming year. It's now 35, 30,
Yeah,
30, yeah.
32.
32. I'm sorry, so that's his, so that's a savings there, but it solved two problems at once. So now he's already working in the schools and it's paying dividends. So that's how that got back in there.
Plus the commissioners moved 14,000 out of the budget too, along with that,
Yep.
to offset it.
Yeah, we did take out $5,000 off of overtime. You see that noted on that page. Social Security, we had to put back $23.82 because we put the SRO position in. And then there's other lines later on that will be made reductions. Did that explain, Brian? I'm not.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I get that. I guess, my question is, are we gonna see down the road another request for funding for the JSO, or is that need going away?
No, as it stands right now, it's kind of a dual function for him. His primary is the SRO, but if something happens egregious enough within the school system and it needs outside intervention, that he is geared toward getting them into a program rather than getting them into the system, to get them redirected, if you will. There won't be any additional funding being requested coming forward to institute that position. That's why it was removed.
Also, Brian, the state actually implemented a new program in October for diversions, which we were doing, which now helped us out, as now it goes down to, who does it go down to? JPPOs. And they evaluate it, see if it needs to go diversion or go to court, because they do diversion now prior to court.
So essentially, the thought process that we had moving on, and I'm not necessarily was adopted by the state, but something very similar. So the two functions became repetitive. And so what the chairman did makes all the sense in the world.
School board's okay with part-time positions there?
Yes.
Are they gonna contribute any funding like they do with a full-time SRO?
So not with that one, due to the fact that our schools, it's most geared towards Carpenter and Crescent Lake, which is Wolfeboro schools.
Okay, any other questions on 100 series? Okay, we'll move on, 200?
John,
Yes, sir.
I'm just a little confused on line 230, retirement. It doesn't look like there's much of a reduction. Weren't we supposed to get a 7% reduction in our retirement charges? And we dropped from approved 2022 approved is 420, 354, and it looks like we're at 418, 790. Unless there's an increase in employees, that would make up the difference.
That was a retirement, no.
Retirement would only be for half a year now?
Retirement doesn't kick in until July.
The
Okay,
change.
it's on a different budgetary cycle than.
So we,
town.
okay, so we got the break then, okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you got the break, but it isn't gonna kick in and you're not gonna see it until July.
Okay, thank you.
Just to back that up, Bob, if you go into the wage page with the individual employees, you'll see the breakdown of the weeks. It's 13 weeks where the employee gets their raises. It's another 13 weeks where the adjustment to the retirement system is made, and then it's the final 26 weeks. So you can see it broken out right that way.
Good, thanks.
Okay, let's move on to 300 series. Series. $500. 600.
John,
Yes, John?
I had a small item here that intrigued me. Postage, and I notice this is true in both the police department and the communications. They sound like they're antisocial. They only had $7.93 in 1 year, and the communications is the same way. So I wonder why then, if that's what they're doing, why they want $400.
So two things. Some of the money that has been spent, it's actually been spent out of petty cash, and so when Casey, I guess, reconciles that petty cash against the accounts that we spent money, you'll see that come out of the police. Last year, we have a lot of stamps, so the way we use even stamps these days, it's kind of at the end of the year, we have the Christmas fund, so next week I will be requesting to use some of that money to replenish our stamps. So
Okay.
it's,
Well,
it's the timing.
This
yeah.
is minor amount, but it was interesting.
That's
Yes,
a-
sir, yeah, we
very-
did recognize that.
We noticed the same thing earlier when we were doing our.
So you do need the $400.
Good catch.
Do you need the $400?
Yes, yes, we
Oh,
do.
of course.
We do. We do. We send out a lot of mailings, a lot of it is
We've
prosecutorial.
overspent our time on this subject, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Burt.
Okay, 700 series. $800 series.
I have a question on that one, John.
Yes, John?
850, you've only spent $280 to date. What's, are you anticipating spending more? Or is it- It's been $700 and you just say, well, we'll have the same?
Well, let's see what our 5-year average is, John, on
I'd
that,
like to
how
see
we
it.
spend our
See
money.
that.
I
I
think
don't know
it
what-
varies, I think it varies,
Oh, yes.
with that line.
You do have the 5-year average?
Yes, sir,
Great.
Casey did an amazing job. So it looks like our 5-year average is $589.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's it on the police. We got for total increase, Casey, of 1.26%.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear you.
What's the total increase in the budget for police? 1.26? Am I reading that right?
This budget for the police department is up 2.5%.
2.5, okay. Okay, let's move right along here.
Page 32 is communications.
Okay, 100 series. $200 series. $300 series. 390, other purchase services, you can find that. Wonder why that's up a little bit, what you got here.
So most of that comes from our software. We're actually adding a new software which is called Power DMS, which is under the Planet, which is now Time, which does our scheduling and our timesheets. The Power DMS will be doing all our policies. It will be all in the hand of a digital. Basically, the officers can reach it right from their cell phones when they're out in the field.
Okay. And you got radar warning signs and trailers. Is that replacements, is that what, new ones, or?
Radar warning signs and trailers, so that's basically just the yearly fee for the software.
Okay. $300, $400? $600? $700? Casey, machinery and equipment was overspent about $16,000. Where did that $16,000 come from? What part of the budget?
So that was from last year, we put
We
in for this
encumbered.
year, covered from last year,
Okay,
for the recorder that we purchased.
okay. Okay, 700, 800. Any questions for communications?
Yeah, I have on 800,
Okay?
on 820, 810, travel and meetings.
So,
You scheduled last for 2022, $1,000, you spent 800. Are there going to be more costs this year?
there might be a few little costs, not as much as what it is. Right now, they're just starting to build back up, communications training based on COVID.
So you're scheduling more training than next year?
Yeah, next year, yes. That's the plan.
Okay, thank you. I'll check next year to see how much it's done.
John? Yes, sir.
On communications, does the dispatch unit fall under this, and are there any expenses to keep that alive and going?
You're talking about the new dispatch?
No, keeping what you have going.
So, yes, this is essentially the budget for that office, right, that function. And.
I guess I'm talking the hardware.
Yeah, this would come out of the various communications maintenance and machinery and equipment, so forth and so on.
But if that, are we talking about the?
You're talking about catastrophic failure?
Yeah, not, maybe not that, but just
So,
keeping it.
I mean, the good news is we had the CIP, which then we have the money in there to order the new one. We're hoping to make it last until the new building comes, which would be a lot cheaper for everybody,
Yeah.
just putting one
Sure.
unit in.
Right.
So we're hoping day by day this will last.
If we had to do a Band-Aid repair,
Well, there's
right,
no
not a sucking
updates.
chest wound, but a Band-Aid repair, yes, it's gonna come out of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, roger that.
There's 308,000 in the capital reserve fund for that project. 308,000
Thank
in
you,
the
ma'am.
capital reserve fund.
That's
I believe
new,
the
though, isn't it?
comprehensive replacement was 360, something like that.
Yeah, that's where.
I'm talking about, bubble gum bailing wire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Little
Yep.
things you got going.
Yep, basically a flesh wound, yeah, we can throw
Right.
some gauze pad on it, yeah, be coming out of this,
Got it.
but if we have to do like, start sticking chest tubes in it and.
Nope, not. Thank you.
Jim, will that capital be all complete at the end of this year for the new console? Will that be all ready to
It's
go?
done, John, yes.
So what the hopes are is, public safety building will come in front of us this year. We will be successful. If we're successful, that money will come out to be able to upgrade the dispatch console, and that will be one of the early phases of the project, just because of the age of the system.
So say it's another 10 or 15% more, there's money somewhere to take care of that? The cost?
We would certainly, do our due diligence to find other pots of money, to be able to offset that expense, whether it's building maintenance capital reserve, whether it's, having some hard conversations with the departments who utilize the system. We would figure it out somehow.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's it for dispatch. What's the percentage on this one, Casey?
So it's 31,891 or 6.5%.
No, the whole budget.
6.5%.
Yes,
Thank you, Steve.
6.5%.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, let's move on to animal
Page
control.
38, animal control.
Okay, I thought we had somebody else, a specialist or something that was gonna do this, a new person.
She's in her name, this isn't on the pages.
Okay, but this is her budget?
Yeah.
Okay. 100 series. $200 series. 300. 600. 800. 'And that's it on animal control. 3.4%, KC.
That's correct.
Okay, now we gotta go to capital outlay.
They do not have any capital outlay.
Okay. That warrant article for cruiser, we're gonna deal with that on warrant article night?
Yes. And the reason we have it for a warrant article is due to the fact that we're offsetting it with the detail account fund.
Okay. I see a new face at the table. You want to introduce him?
Yes.
A new old face.
Yeah. So
Kind of a
to
new
the left
face.
of me is Lieutenant Guy Maloney. So,
Congratulations.
learning the ropes, sitting up here.
I'm sorry this wasn't more lively for you. This is pretty mellow for a budget meeting.
That's okay.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of the police department or the police commissioner? Thank you folks for coming in. Steve, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing a good job on your budget. Is that it? That's all of our?
I've already spoken to you about the additional SRO position.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you know what'll be coming forward. We're going to put that request in the form of a warrant article.
It's
You
go.
need to
I'm sorry.
be much louder.
I thought this room had better acoustics. Apparently it doesn't.
We're all getting old.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of this here most of the time, but, I had mentioned to you before about an additional full-time SRO at the middle school. That will be coming also forward in the form of a warrant article. The reason the commission chose to do that way, rather than through capital outlay, is one, it gives the town out if they don't wanna support it. I can't imagine they wouldn't, because we've had overwhelming response in favor of adding it. Last night, we had a meeting for the school safety task force, and I had a conversation with the chairman of the budget committee, who also confirmed that they will be putting their portion of the SRO, the new SRO position, in their operating budget. So the warrant article will be written in such a way that it gives the town an out in more than one way, that either the school budget fails to pass our operating budget, or if the warrant article fails to pass, then all bets are off. So it's a kind of a,
You also something in there that if it does pass, the salary for the part-time SRO is gone from the budget?
no, because there's two different jobs there. The position for the middle school is a full-time SRO. The workload is such it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Mary can't do all of these schools, she's inundated. Just to give you an example, last week Mary was on vacation, and we had our part-time SRO working in part-time capacity at the high school. Because if somebody's not there, we lose that reimbursement, which is compounded daily.
Is that part-time SRO gonna become a full-time one?
No,
No, okay.
he's retired, but came back part-time. That'll be a full-time, will it be a new hire, somebody internally, but, and then back to, but either way, my guess is we're gonna go to the outside for that. The workload is such that it's warranted at the middle school. The elementary schools are experiencing similar behaviors, and as I said earlier, just having that part-time gentleman walking through the schools, it's opened up the lines of communication with administration. The police department, they're building relationships with the kids at an early age, which is very, very important. Anything from stopping in and reading a story in a classroom to, you know, taking an interest in what they're doing in the class or outside, what have you. But he's splitting his time between the two schools, and establishing a presence and building relationships. But there's been a lot of questionable behavior from very young children.
Wow.
That, I mean, I'll give you an example, Bob. I won't mention names, but there's a woman that lives next door to me that's been out of work for quite some time, and I don't know if it was a first or second grader. Didn't get what he wanted, and she was down on her knees trying to communicate with him and another student. And he got around behind her and went like this, and did nerve damage to her neck.
Holy
And she also has to go back and find out if she needs Tommy John surgery. Same student also put his hands around the neck of a former administrator. And I've heard at the high school, just last night, it was conveyed in that meeting, that they've had several choking incidents this year at the high school. You know, yeah, it's crazy, it's sad, especially with young ones. But, you know, it's always good if you have the opportunity to build up those relationships early on with the kids, establish that trust, establish the, you know, approachability for the police officers so they're not afraid of them. The gentleman doing it has a wonderful disposition, so he's doing a good job, and, you know, we're getting a lot of positive feedback from the staff and so forth too, so that's, but that, in answer to your question, John, that position will remain in a part-time capacity. We repurposed the JSO into that position.
Okay.
And saved
You don't
money
foresee
in
that
the
being a full-time?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks.
No, because then, well, first of all, I wouldn't have the audacity to come before you folks and say, we want to fund this. Oh, by the way, we have to do this on our own. The district won't support an officer specific to Wolfeboro. They're all behind doing the middle school and the high school because it represents all the district towns.
Yeah.
You know, there's one suggestion made last night at a meeting about having somebody from another agency or, you know, come in and do it, which you don't do, and you don't have somebody come from another department in Wolfeboro. You know, you can't have two chiefs, the one you work for and the one in Wolfeboro. when there was a suggestion made too about having the SRO move around in different schools. Well, and the rationale was so that the other schools have representation. Well, that's up to them and their board of selectmen, the police department, the board of selectmen, in the district towns, and they all have elementary schools. I know New Durham doesn't have an SRO position, but they spend a good amount of time with the kids and are building those relationships. And the principal from New Durham mentioned that last night. So there's a lot of good things happening, trying to redirect these behaviors and address them before they happen. And so from our first meeting with the town and with the school district, there was an overwhelming, there was nobody that spoke against having additional protections and security at the schools. The school has applied for, district has applied for a lot of grants through Homeland Security to fortify their buildings more. So, at the end of the day, not only do we want to establish good relationships, but it's a deterrent. So, just trying to be proactive and keep our kids safe.
I was gonna ask you if the buildings are all secure. Are they all buzzing facilities and?
They do have a, I can only speak for the high school and middle school because I spent 20 years volunteering there, but they have a key card system to get in.
Yeah.
And if you're just a member of the public, if you're on staff, you have a key card, but if you're a member of the public, you can get in between the two sets of doors, and then through an intercom,
Right.
you can speak to the office and state your business, and they'll buzz you in.
Do they also have their own security in the buildings?
They do not, that I'm aware of. There never has been, other than the administration. But they don't, they have a truant officer, but he doesn't stay there, he's out and about and so forth too, so. Yeah, there is no security within the schools as they
Yeah.
exist.
Well, that's the big thing. All doors must be locked at all times, right?
But it is you gotta remember too, it's an open campus somewhat, because of the art center with the high
Yeah.
school. They walk back and forth.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good night. And a nice holiday.
Thank you.
Jim, do you have anything to add this evening?
Congratulations.
No, I think our next meeting is
Okay, good luck. Thanks, Steve.
15.
June
Yes.
8th. I won't be here, Casey will, so have a wonderful time.
Hey, I got a couple, John, I got a couple questions.
Sure.
No, we're all set.
Jim,
Thank you.
do you have any clue yet as to what our health insurance cost is gonna be? Did you find out yet?
Not- We can't, yes, we do, and I would say that Casey needs to release that information to the budget, or to the board of selectmen.
Okay.
We haven't quantified it yet.
Okay.
We have an idea,
Right.
so I would,
All right,
Stay tuned,
okay,
we'll have an
we'll
answer.
find out soon enough.
Yeah.
And then my other question is did you get all the information in Concord to establish the tax rate?
That too also, I had a special meeting with the Board of Selectmen tonight to hit the done button. So it's still preliminary because the DRA director has not signed off on it. So Wednesday night I will be presenting that to the Board of Selectmen.
I got you, okay. And I was just curious as to, has our assessed value gone up somewhat incrementally from
That's gone up $32 million.
Okay, so that might bring down our tax rate even a little further then, and depending on what the school does come up with, at their deliberative session in February, they said school rate was going down about 31 cents per thousand in Wolfeboro, so that might bring that down even a little further, the higher assessed value. So we might, when you're done, we might come out pretty even.
but I would just add that we were, Casey, assessing, we had our stuff in timely. It's apparently the schools and the county were the big hang-ups with DRA.
I'm not, last year was kind of late too, so it's, these things get hung up.
But unfortunately, if we just get them approved next week sometime, is the hope, and
Yeah.
processing of getting the bills out, you won't get them until the end of November, and then they're due at the end of January. Just, it's crappy
Yeah.
timing to
Yeah.
receive tax bills for some people.
On the state website, they only have about 2 pages of towns listed already, and it's normally an 8-page run, so most towns don't have their stuff in yet, so.
Yeah, and we were waiting for the school appropriation of Governor Wentworth, you know,
Right.
to figure out our process, I mean, our piece of it, so, that was holding us up. So we just heard from DRA, this week. But to expedite, I hold a special meeting with the board to get it moving so that maybe a warrant can be signed on Wednesday night is the hope.
Good,
So I should be able to update you next week, hopefully, if everything goes
great,
well.
great, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, our next meeting is November 15th, and we're going to talk about the fire and emergency management, ambulance, public safety building, capital outlay, and we'll also do some minutes, hopefully. If we don't have anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday tomorrow.